Okay, so it's 12:03. Thank you to everyone here. As others join, they will join in the conversation. First of all, welcome to YBTT's Failing Forward Roundtable discussion. And I think it's a special one because we have some of the YBTT board members here, including myself. I am Rachel Rennie, and I will be your moderator today. And we'll just be discussing what failure is, what failing forward is, around the space of entrepreneurship. As we all know, it's Global Entrepreneurship Week, and we're celebrating everything around entrepreneurship and all the trials, tribulations, and rewards that come with it. All right. So I would like to introduce our panel. I was so happy when the YBTT directors and jumped on board to be a part of this event and to share their failures. And I think it's something that is not often discussed. And it's really important that everyone understands the happy pictures and the pretty pictures that persons post or the newspaper articles are not always the full brunt of the story, right? So Onel says, hello, everyone. So I'm just going to welcome the board members, the directors who are here from YBTT. Myself, Rachel Rennie. I'm an entrepreneur for 16 years. I've been, around the space of food, and I've co-founded 4 businesses to date. And yeah, there were a lot of failures along the way. With us, we have Lisa Ann Joseph, who is the managing director at Reputation Management Caribbean. She's a corporate and crisis communications expert. So needless to say, she's always under pressure, I imagine. And she's a media trainer, an executive coach, a trainer, a speaker, and of course, a director at the Youth Business of Trinidad and Tobago. She's recently joined with myself. And we also have Jason Roach, who is currently serving as the CEO of Rujan Marketing. I got that right? Yeah, Jason?
Yes,
Roach.
yes.
Correct. Great. He's the CEO of Rujan Marketing. He's the director at Langston Roach Industries Limited. He's the governor at University of Trinidad and Tobago, along with serving as a director at GTCIC, as well as Youth Business Trinidad and Tobago. So he wears many hats, and so we're looking forward to getting that experience. And lastly, we have Marcus Sankau, who I've known for some time because he's also in the food space. He's the managing director at Fresh Start Limited, a generational food and beverage business. His skills are business planning, strategic planning, entrepreneurship, leadership, and governance and management, right? So we have some really great panelists here, a wealth of experience, and we're going to share what our failing forward really is, right? So thank you for everyone being here. I'm just going to define quickly what failing forward really means, because there might be some misconceptions around failure, things like that. So failing forward is the acceptance of failure as a stepping stone to future success. It requires you to take responsibility, learning from your mistakes, take new risks, and challenge old assumptions, which I think is a big part of that process. But at the end of it, you have to persevere, right? So on the other hand, failing backwards occurs when we blame others, we repeat the same mistakes, we expect to never fail again, and when we take our failures personally and quit, right? So I'm just showing you the opposites of what failing backwards looks like and what failing forward really looks like, all right? So with that theme around failing forward, what does it mean? What does it all mean? And of course, there are different interpretations based on who's experiencing it, right? So Lisanne, first up, what does failing forward mean to you? And what does it look like based on your own experiences, your own personal experiences, based on that, definition of what it is? What is your interpretation of failing forward?
Well, thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us here for this week Well, it means pretty much what you just said, Rachel. The only thing for me is the biggest takeaway is the mindset, really and truly. In every business, you are going to have successes and you're going to have failures. It's inevitable on both parts. It's really how you deal with it and what is the mindset that you put in place to recover from it. My business is strategic communications and crisis communications. And in the area of crisis communications, it deals with failure within business for some reason. You know, it could be a process, a project, the business itself, all sorts of different things. People, issues, all sorts of things can go wrong. But those things are expected in businesses. The failing forward is how you recover from it. Do you determine, and how do you determine to recover from it? So looking at the damage, and how do you control the damage? How do you control and recover? You manage it, and also the recovery and the repairing of your brand and your image moving forward. And that is how you determine the success of failing forward, moving ahead. You know, if you stay and you wallow in it and you blame this one and blame that one and you know, the customer and all these things, and don't really say, okay, what did we learn from this? How can we pivot from here? How can we do things differently? Or because of our multiple failures, do we completely shut this thing down and move or pivot into something completely new? It's how you recover, repair, and continue, or determine to go in another direction altogether. And that is really how I look at failing forward. The mindset that you have to determine what's your next step and how you come out of this situation.
Awesome. I love that, Lisa. And I think the word recovery is very important because it tells you right away that failure is not final, right? You must think of the recovery process. How do you deal with it? So going a little further, I mean, there's a stigma with failure, obviously. You know, you get it from the time you enter any sort of school. You know, there's an F and there's an A, right? So there's a stigma around failure and this fear around failing, right? So we want to be able to understand, how do we remove that fear, right? How do you remove the fear that comes right before, you know, you're about to do something big or you're about to do something exciting for your business? How do you remove that fear? And Marcus and Jason, I would love to hear how, you know, like what techniques do you use to remove that fear or that stigma with regards to failure? So Jason, if you'd like to go first, basically any technique you use around bringing down that fear or removing that idea around failure. Are there any techniques you use, anything you do before doing something amazing or big in your next steps? Any technique at all, if you guys could share with us, you know, how do you remove that fear from failing or potentially failing?
Well, basically for me, my mental process when it comes to entrepreneurship is a little different. I think when it comes to entrepreneurship, one of the important things that you have to understand is that you have to be open to new ideas and new concepts, right? One of the things that worked for me was having a good mentor, right? So having a good mentor really kind of removes the thought of what are the repercussions if I fail, you know, because your mentor would have gone through similar experiences that they would have they would have explained to you and walked you through and try to guide you to minimize the potential of what the impact will be if you failed. So having a good mentor removed that fear from me, right, and allowed me to really zone into what I'm trying to achieve and jump into it without that fear. So that is what worked for me. I had a very good mentor from very early on. And also coming up in a family of business, it's all I know. So even when I went home, I would have gotten a lot of advice. I would have heard my parents, my grandparents talking about business and what they could have done better, and even discussing some of their own failures. So growing up in it like that, it was a little different for me. So I didn't really have fear. I jumped very often and had a lot of failures very early on, and I think growing up in an entrepreneurial family, you are encouraged to fail because you wouldn't have, there are just some lessons that you have to learn by trying. You could study, you could do all the academics, get all the theories, but you wouldn't really know until you immerse yourself into that environment.
Okay, thank you so much. I mean, and I love that. So you're leaning on a trusted mentor, and this, I mean, obviously this can be found at YBTT. So, and you're using the experience of how you grew up, right? Of course, everyone had different experiences growing up, but it's important to observe where you saw those opportunities, where you saw someone sharing their failures and learning from it.
Yeah.
Marcus, any techniques, anything you use before, a launch of something new, or this fear that comes around, what would everyone think? Would my parents think? What would my family think? Is there any technique that you use to kind of bring that fear down?
I think, Jason would have said basically what I am about to say. Experience, I think, is one of the most important parts. So if you're now jumping into entrepreneurship or getting your feet wet, you're going to have to learn to learn. And there's nothing that prepares you for failure other than failure. You can hear the stories from everyone, and you can read as many books as you want, but you have to go through it to really understand what failure is. And then another way to look at it is that failure is different for everyone. So your failure and my failure might be two different types of things. However, failure is like a battle scar. In the heat of the moment, or when you get your injury, it will hurt, and it will hurt deeply. But as you go along and it heals and the wound heals, you could look back at it and you could learn from it, and it becomes a war story eventually, and you learn from your experience and you move on. And I think that's one of the best ways to deal with failure, and you have to experience it and you have to learn from it, and then you just move on to the next one, and it hurts less and less as you go along.
Okay, that's hopeful. Jason, I see your hands up. Yes,
I just wanted to add, right? So recently, over the last year, I hold on to a philosophy that I came across, right? Which is starting correctly. When you start correctly with the correct mindset, as Lisa was saying. So, for example, when I go into a new venture, or I'm evaluating a new venture, one of the first questions that I really try to answer is, why am I going into this venture? And what I've found is that when you really crystallize the answer to that question in your mind, when you do encounter challenges or you do encounter failure, you really develop the propensity to start and rebound and learn from what it is you actually set out to do, rather than looking at your venture solely isolated on its own. You have to fall in love and develop the passion for it. And once you develop the passion, you would understand that obstacles is inevitable or are inevitable. Yeah.
Thank you. I think, there's a lot of experience, obviously, here in this room, and we have a lot of startups, in the community. Of course, YBTT, we deal mostly with startups. So with that, experience around the experience, I think the bridge is the mentor, right? Finding that person who, has that experience, who can at least teach you when you're now starting. Marcus, I want to ask you, do you remember your first failure, or like your most like that one thing that you were like, it just, it took you on a ride and you were like, okay, do I give up here? You were at a crossroads. Maybe your first failure was that, or is there something that a failure that, really was, poignant in
Rachel,
your
we only have 1 hour today. So,
I just need one. The first one or the most impactful one? The one that
there's one
things
that really stands out to me, and this is way back when I was in St. Mary. I was in Form 6, and I was blessed with a vehicle, and I was able to drive to and from school. And I used this vehicle that's where the entrepreneurship started. I viewed having a vehicle as an asset, and at that point in time, I viewed it as a liability. And in order to offset the liability, I had to make it work for me in some way or the other. So what I did was to purchase. I became a doubles distributor. So I would buy, I would take orders, buy doubles, bring them back to school, and distribute the doubles in school. I was making like a 35% margin or something like that. So it would pay for gas and any little small repairs I had. It was doing quite well. And what happened was that another guy in school, he was a friend at the time, he decided, well, he needed friends more than he needed money. So instead of buying the doubles and marking it up, he would just buy it as a favor and bring it back to school. So of course my business bust right there. And so that was a business that failed. And what I learned is that the competition will do anything and everything to cut your throat, right? So you have to be very aware of how you enter your business and how you protect yourself in your business.
I love that. I love that. I figured you had some early failure stories.
We have lots. I have lots.
Lisa Ann,
Yeah.
what do we're talking about failures, but what do you think was one of your most successful failures? Meaning like it was terrible when it started, but somehow it turned out to be either a learning lesson or even a success at the end.
Yeah. I have several of those too, and I can go way back or I can go very recent. So many of those. But the one of those that stands out to me is let me see, about 10 years ago, my husband and I decided to open a home accessory store. And this is another business that we looked to open. And our aim was, to get into the retail space. And we did everything required to do it. We did our market research. We spoke to several persons. We tested the market, all of that. We opened the store. But we didn't realize that Trinidadians are seasonal shoppers in the home accessory space. Now, forget now. I'm talking before COVID. I'm talking 10 years ago. So it's different then than it is now, way different. And COVID has changed things somewhat as well. But back then, Trinidadians, and Amazon was going strong, and other online companies were going strong, and people were traveling a lot. So, but we were determined to make this thing a success. Nope, didn't happen. It was seasonal. So what was happening is that the Christmas season would kick in. We will do very well. We will get all the customers, business would be great. And come January 1st, it plummeted, and it stayed there until September, end of September, so October 1st. So we kept this business running. However, what we did while we were trying to keep this so-called success in our minds, it wasn't a success, but in our minds, it was a success. We were building, we were in the growth stage, a startup. And so we kept saying, and other people keep saying, stick at it, stay with it, it will grow, all these things. But thank God while doing that, we were able to venture into a commercial division. So we went into the commercial space, the commercial entertaining space. And thank God we did that, because once we took the decision to close the retail arm of the business, because it just wasn't making any money, and it was a tough decision to do that. And, you know, people don't want to see their babies fail. It was a baby, we nurtured it, we did everything, but thank God we expanded into another line. But we still wanted to see this baby grow, and it failed. And the hard decision was taken to close this business, and thank God we did, you know, and we closed it at the start of 2019 before COVID.
Wow.
So that worked well. But when we were taking that decision, we took a year to make that decision. And, you know, we got peer pressure, we got all these things. No, don't close it. We love it. Your brand is building, all these things. You know, everybody from the outside love to give input, but they are not living it. They don't have to pay the expenses every month. They don't have overheads. They don't have staff. They don't have to do it, but they love it, and they want you to keep it because it works well for them only during Christmas time.
Right.
You know, and we looked at several things. We looked at going online completely. We looked at going seasonal only. We looked at all the options before we decided to close the business. And then we actually said, you know, this is what happens in business. You open and you close businesses. But while you're doing that, what are you learning from it? And thank God, in between, we were able to open a new line, the commercial division. So when we closed the retail division, we were able to pivot into, well, at least he was able, because the PR agency was running all the time. This was just another business that we opened. So my husband was able to pivot into the commercial space and build on that, which was not our priority initially. So when this retail thing was becoming a failure in our minds and in our pockets, we said, you know, okay, look at the other option. And then from that space, we actually purchased a building to, you know, expand into the commercial space. So all sorts of other businesses spawn from this particular failed business.
I love that.
And only, again, it was mindset, open to suggestions, open to trying things that are new, and overcoming the fear. There's always a fear. You have to overcome it. You have to take a chance. Try not to listen to too many naysayers, and just stick with it, and, you know, hunker down and do what you think needs to be done. But you have to put the work in, and it will work. So that was one of my most successful failures. So that's in the past. We're now into the other businesses, and I have to say it is doing very well.
Okay.
Knowing when to cut the cord is also very important.
That's right. And cutting the cord is the hardest thing to do.
I think what you said there kind of hit a note with me is, you know, you say it's a baby, right? You know, when you start your business, it's a baby, but we all know babies don't remain babies, right? They can grow up and become something completely different. So I love that story of, you know, you may have had this idea, and I'm sure when you have your baby, you know, you pour all these ideas into this person, or you think they look a particular way, or they may be good at something. And it's only when they start to grow up and mature and you get that experience, you realize where the potential lies, right? So I really love that story. Jason, we know you wear a lot of hats, right? Many hats, you know, you're always doing different things. But I have a question. Is there any failure? Was there a time when you've experienced the same failure twice? Maybe not in the same business or the same example or scenario, but was there ever a time when you actually experienced the same failure twice?
Yes. Discipline and managing money.
Okay.
Right. you know, when you enter into, when you do a startup, right? You don't have the benefit of, you know, a lot of solid structures in place that could help you separate your personal life from your business, you know, and it really depends on your model as well. I think one of the things that is a very important lesson to learn and learn very quickly is having that discipline to really manage your money for your business, manage your personal finances, and not commingle the two, right? It's very easy to get quick wins, and you think, well, all right, well, I made a breakthrough, or I made some money, and then you take that money and you go and spend it on your personal means, right? And sometimes, you know, we have a tendency in this new age that many of us live above our means, you know. So when you see these quick wins and you don't have that financial discipline, to your business money is your business, your personal money is your personal money, and really develop that discipline early on to pay yourself. And if you don't manage your money well personally, you have to find other means rather than disrupting your business. This is something that I learned that lesson many times before, right? And it's a lesson that I was allowed to learn, you know, because my father would tell me, you know, you're going to spend money on this big project, and then you're building a house at the same time. You'll learn, you know, you'll learn. And then guess what? A year down the road, I have to come and knock, Daddy, I in a hole, I need some more money. Right? No, I tell you, XYZ, you better go and find the finance elsewhere. Right? So that's a lesson. That's a lesson that is a very hard pill to swallow when you're an entrepreneur. And if you don't have that discipline early on, it could really circumvent your true potential.
I love that. I really love that experience. And I remember seeing, you know, your father speak at an event and talking about his entrepreneurial journey. And I'm sure, you know, that experience and being exposed to it, those lessons learned. And I love that, you know, even though you were told what to do, you still, you know, fumbled. And sometimes, again, you have to go through that experience. Someone can tell you, they can say, yes, this is what's going to happen, but sometimes you have to burn to learn, you know, that saying. So I love your honesty.
Yeah, because you see, I'm looking at my mentor. My father's my mentor. So you could drive this big Benz, and you could have this big house, and I now starting up, and I can't really afford these things. So when I get the quick wins, I want to catch up on what I think I'm losing out, you know, and lose focus from trying to grow my business sustainably and on its own.
And his story is not your own, right? You have to tell your own story. So I love that. I love that. We getting some good feedback in the chat. Everybody's excited. They're appreciating the honesty and openness. So I think what's great about this roundtable discussion, that it's not just about the panelists. You know, we have some real entrepreneurs here in the chat and participating. And they have shared during the registration process some of their own failures. And we're not going to reveal whose failure is what and whatnot, but we're going to share just anonymously some of the failures that persons in the group would have shared. And I just want to, any panelists, one per failure, everybody take one. But I'm going to share what their failure was. And maybe if you have some advice on like, you know, how they could have maybe dealt with it differently, or just, I've been there too, or I went through that too. So participant one, their failure was, they said, quote, I had to start all over again because I got into business with a partner who had a selfish attitude and showed greed when we profited. So I don't know if anybody had that experience or have advice on partnerships. I mean, I have a business partner, of course, and that has gone through mine, but I didn't have that personal experience. So if anyone on the panel, you know, encountered something like that or have some, you know, advice for this participant, that would be great.
I could take that. I mean,
Yeah.
I have not personally experienced this. I mean,
Okay.
but I've witnessed it. I've seen it happen many times between friends and other friends or friends and other associates. And I mean, I hate to be the one to say it to them after, but I told you so. You know, it was always a situation where, okay, y'all are getting into business, you're going into this joint venture, you're both putting equal amounts of money into this thing, but you'll have done everything right except you have written nothing down. So you have not formalized this relationship. Neither of you have said what your expectations are from each other. So if you're getting into this, I mean, and many times businesses start, you know, it's a non-lineman and say, hey, what you do start
This would
doing
be
so and
cool.
so.
This
This
would
will be
be
real cool. And then before you know it, business going, money flowing. And then time comes and it's like, so we're making plenty money and I want to buy the big Benz. But I don't really want to buy a big Benz. I want to buy a panel van. And then, you know, the ideas don't sync. And there was no formalized contract from in advance. So, you know, there's nobody could really say what the plan was at the beginning. And then it ends up in court. And
wow.
you're fighting for your little bit of profit, and then the business ultimately fails because of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
I
so you're saying legal, you know, have an arrangement, make
Have
it.
an arrangement, write it down, talk to
So
a lawyer.
and Rachel Brown is saying no partnership agreements in place. So this person, you know, they're saying that, you know, the partner showed a selfish attitude and greed only when they profited. So, I mean, there are scenarios where personalities come out and the real
Yeah.
side of people come out, of course. But agreed, you know, you need to have that legal side of it and that agreement and that conversation that is taken into something formalized and
That's right.
you know validated. So
that's why I like to start at why, you know, because when you
yeah.
start this partnership, right? Do you both want the same thing? Right? And why are you getting into the partnership in the first place? Because really, to tell you, that's where your vision statement and your mission statement is going to come from, right? And the reality is, if you're going into a partnership with someone that doesn't want the same things that you want, in other words, maybe you are trying to create impact. Maybe that person wants to generate wealth, right? So your ideologies are different. And yes, if it is you don't have that agreement up front, you are going to run into problems.
Right. So you're saying to align the ideology because it's not the individual ideologies, it's the company's ethos, the
Well, it's
you
both.
know, things.
It's
It's
Okay.
both,
both.
yeah. Both,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
your personal goals, but also the business. We start this idea, what are we trying to achieve?
Right.
And do you have buy-in? You know,
Right.
because someone that is trying to make money and build wealth will have a different mindset from someone who's trying to create social impact. You know,
Right.
so that is something that
Yeah.
you have to pay attention
And
to.
you can have those alternating views, I think, in a partnership, because my business partner is the exact opposite of me. Everyone is like, he's so laid back, he's so chill. I am the, you know, this has to be this way. But I agree with you. You still have to have that shared understanding of you know, where to take it, you know, where
Yeah.
I
you
think once the conversation happens and each party knows the expectations of each other,
Right.
and you have open communication, that is the most important thing.
Right.
Because if I know what you're about and you know what I'm about, then we can align our overarching goal and we
Right.
can achieve something. Because your ideology is different than mine, that doesn't mean we can't work together. You know,
Right.
because we all, that's why you have a board of directors. Everybody has a different set of skills, and you know, not everybody has the same views, and that's what makes a strong board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have another participant who said, and I've experienced this, not getting the anticipated response from customers. So I'm gonna take a little bit on this a little bit, where you have this idea and you know you think it's amazing and you craft it out and you design it and you share it and you put it on your website or you put it in the store or you get it out there, the idea. And customers just don't respond. And I think that was one of my biggest learning lessons, that, you know, did I do enough market research? Did I actually understand who my customer was? So I knew what I liked and I knew what I wanted, but it didn't speak to our customers at the time, right? And now it's like the idea I had 16 years ago. Now you see our audience and our customers finally kind of understanding the importance of health and wellness and what we're about. So sometimes your customers aren't always ready. So the response from the customers, is there any scenario, anyone who, you know, not getting that anticipated response from the customer, and how did you bounce back from that?
Yeah, I'll take that one. I mean, that my experience is very similar to yours, Rachel, in that when I started my company 15 years ago, I came from international organizations. I worked with them, and the area of crisis communications and strategic communications were top of mind, were not just soft skills, they were necessary skills within those international organizations. So here I am saying, all right, let me start this company. I started it, and I'm like, okay, I can bring especially the area of crisis comms to the Caribbean. And that fell so flat. It was, I mean, I felt like such a failure at the time, because when I went to customers and I'm telling them, you know, this is what you have to do. You have to be media trained. You have to do this. You have to do that. They're like, no. All we need is a press release. All we need is are these things. These are the things that we need in the area of traditional public relations, not in what communications really is about now. And, you know, I did a website, everything. I had all the frills and you know, and went and tried to market this thing, and it didn't bite.
Wow.
And I had to say, okay, what am I doing wrong? What do I need to do different? Because I've launched this company, and I am certainly not going to fail at it. But it feels like I am going in the direction of failure already. And, you know, I started to take up the mindset of, you know, PR 101 and marketing 101. What does the customer want? And I pivoted back then and said to them, all right, what do you want? And I reworked my menu of services.
Okay.
And I came back to them. And that is how I got the ball rolling. So I always have the mindset of looking from the outside in. I mean, my staff fed up hearing me talk about this. I always say, what does the customer want? What does the client want? You have to write it in their context. You have to make sure it resonates with the customer. You have to come from their perspective and then introduce what you think they need. And that mindset and that change, tangible change over time, is what it has created Reputation Management Caribbean to be now. So now we're known for strategic comms and for crisis comms. More crisis comms than strategic comms, but I have to work on building back that strategic comms area. But now, because the world has caught up with what I thought we wanted, they needed back then. Now they're like, okay, we need crisis comms. And I was like, well, could I help you 15 years ago? But no problem. We'll deal with it now. And that is what it is. So
Yeah.
all businesses, if you really, really keep in mind, what does the customer want? Start there. And then you have, once that happens, then you can introduce your color and flavor and what you think they need to have. And that is the only way you will get that impact, that two-way impact.
Wow. I love that story. Mainly because, you know, with the health and wellness, customers are now coming to us now that they have an NCD or now that they have an illness. Now they want help with helping with their wellness and health goals. So But it just shows that we are, you know, you're trusted now to come to do that because you've remained, you've tweaked your services and you've evolved with what the customer wants, right? And knowing that it's not just, it's what your customer wants. So there's some persons who aren't your customer and you don't necessarily
Exactly.
have to be listening
Yeah.
to them.
And know who your customer is.
Exactly, exactly. So we're going to be doing a quick survey coming to the end for the Q&A part, but we do have one more participants feedback, and I think it's something that everyone experiences. So missing opportunities because of self-doubt and anxiety. So I mean, on a personal level, it doesn't matter. You could have the best plan, you could have all that. But personally, when you get up every day, you know, that mindset is a big part of accomplishing those company goals and strategic goals. So is there anything quickly that, you know, self-doubt, anxiety that you do? Is there a book? Is there an author? Is there exercising? Whatever it is, what works for you to help minimize that self? Of course, I'm assuming that everybody has self-doubt and anxiety, right?
All the time.
It's not just women, it's men too, you know, everyone experiences it. So is there any quick tips? What do you guys do? You know, your morning routine, anything that you want to share lastly? Because we're going to do a quick survey and then we're going to open up the Q&A part. Marcus, do you drink juice every morning? What's your strategy?
What do I do every morning? I would say over the last year and coming out of the pandemic, I did develop anxiety, and it was very serious, and I literally changed my entire lifestyle because of it. And so what I started doing, I started running, and then I set a goal. It was a lofty goal. I said I'm going to get into 15K. So I trained for 15K and I did it. And then from then I ended up in a half marathon. And a year later, I am now doing triathlons. And so there's UE this weekend. So I'm going to be running UE half marathon this weekend as well. And that has changed my outlook a lot. It has, you know, really opened my eyes to the possibilities. I'm not a spring chicken, but if I can do something like this, you know, it's like a whole 360, a whole 180 in my life, you know, and it really has changed everything.
Yeah. So the survey is in the chat, guys. Anyone? So if you can start filling that out, that'll be great. Jason, what do you do? Anything?
Well, similar. I like to swim and cycle and work out, right? But very interesting. You know, one of the more challenging things to do in business is, you know, networking and actually going out there and sell. You know, people have a fear of speaking to people and expressing themselves and expressing their ideas.
Yes.
You know what I do? When I get anxiety and doubt, that's when I really want to do it, to get over it, because I don't like the feeling of being, you know, being that way. So if I have a fear of doing a public speech, you know, the earliest opportunity that I get, I will go and do it. I may not be 100% perfect, you know, but with experience of continuously doing it, I'm going to get better. And you know, the sales gurus tell you that, you know, if you're trying to sell a product to someone and you get a no, don't get defeated. You know, actually you could start out with the expectation that you may get a no. How do I overcome it from very early on? So those are the little exercises I do. So when I think an idea or an action is going to make me uncomfortable, I really challenge myself to go after it.
I love that. Lisa, anything?
You know, I would even add, not even, sometimes the self-doubt is not there. It could be other people who are just telling you not to do it. That creates the self-doubt, you know. Yeah, because when sometimes you talk to people and you're like, well, I would like to do this, or like, you know, give them your thoughts and your dreams, or, you know, and I would say be careful who you speak to, because a lot of times people will try to get you from not doing what you really need to do, or and help you with your self-doubt. So you become more doubtful
So
of
they're
what you're
fueling
about.
that
So they're
doubt.
fueling that
Mhm.
doubt and that lack of
Negativity.
self, so sometimes people say stick to who you know and who your circle of persons who will drive you out of that self doubt, who will help you through the process, who give you that positive energy, that positive vibe. And if you have few persons who give you that positive vibe all the time, then that's it. You have to help yourself, deal with or giving yourself that hype to get you out of that negative zone and throw yourself out of that comfort zone. So, you have to keep talking. I say keep talking to yourself. You have affirmations, you read things. I mean, the internet is there for the taking. There's so many different ways of keeping that positivity and fueling yourself with positivity
Yeah.
that helps you every day. Sometimes you have to call on that and pray, if whatever God that you pray to if that helps you, do what you have to do to help you through that process.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you can stay there and time passes and then you're like, well, all right, what am I going to do now?
Exactly.
That resonates with me so much, Alisa. And you really have to protect your mental space when it comes to entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
because you see negativity. Negativity is a dream killer, and if you are around people that don't believe in your dream, find people that believe in your dream. And this is one of the things about really getting a mentor, because the mentor will take the time to really listen and understand where you want to go and really try to guide you. Sometimes they'll give you some constructive criticisms really to jog your mind,
That's right.
but
Yeah.
really and truly, you don't want to be around people that don't really understand your dream, and they're repeatedly telling you, no, you can't do this, or no, you can't do that. And the same thing that Lisa said, positive reinforcement and affirmations, is going to keep you focused and grounded in terms of what you're trying to achieve.
And if you don't have those persons around you, again, do it for yourself, right? Those
Do it for yourself.
self-affirmations.
Yeah.
Tell yourself the things that you need to hear, right?
Yeah.
Aaron just said in the chat that he listens to Michael Jackson and dances when he has anxiety.
Listen,
I mean, whatever works for you.
whatever works for you, do it in your car. If whatever to hype you up and to help you through it. It's just breaking that energy, yeah. And it's all in the mind, because people can talk to you. You can have all the mentors in the world talk to you. If you don't change that mindset and tell yourself that you can do it, but you have to do it to know if it can work.
Exactly. So
But you can talk yourself out of doing it. A lot of times we talk ourselves out of doing it. So do it and see if it works. You don't know, but don't let people tell you it's not going to work.
Yeah.
If you don't try it. I'm talking about, good things. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've been doing public speaking, as you all know, just like trying to do more, talks. I did a TED talk recently, and which was super scary. And I actually started doing karaoke because I'm a terrible singer, and I go to like different karaoke's and I just sing in public. I don't care. And like everyone like cheers you on no matter how terrible you sing. So again, it's not one thing. It's really about who you are as an entrepreneur, who you are as a person. So we're coming up close to the 1 hour mark, but we have the survey in the chat. Please fill out the survey. I do have one quote I want to just end with, but we'll do a couple Q&As. Is there anyone burning questions that you want to ask in the chat? Now is your time. I mean, exactly what you're saying, Jason. I think what you said about networking, my business partner is always like, you will ask for anything, like you will talk to anybody. And I'm like, yeah, because, you never know. And
that's why you get what you're looking for.
What's the worst that could happen? I end up with the same,
Like, all you can do is tell it's all. I always say, All they can do is tell me no. So fine,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
understood. So, I mean, we're not seeing, I don't know if everybody being shy, they were all talking before, but if you have any burning questions, please put it in the chat right now. Someone is asking, Onel Campbell, how do you keep motivated on your business journey despite your failures? So that motivation, how do you keep motivated?
I think having a team that can work
Mhm.
around failures or understanding what the failures are, and you supporting, or having a team that supports each other despite failures is very important.
Yeah.
And you can't let whatever failure define you. You have to look at the future and the big picture and work towards that. Don't sweat the small stuff and just keep going. I don't know if anyone ever saw or heard the WD-40 story, and the reason why WD-40 is called WD-40. So
No.
the WD and WD-40 is water displacement, and 40 was the number of tries it took to reach the formula that worked.
Wow.
So they had 39 formulas that failed, and now you have WD-40, which is a $1 billion company.
Wow.
So
I'm stealing that.
yeah, and it's just one of those things, like, are there any problems in your business or in your life that you've tried 39 times, like to solve?
And then we
have
have this cancel culture, right? Somebody makes one mistake or you make one mistake and it's over. But it happens, right? It happens to everyone, the best of us.
I think as Simon Sinek who said, you can't have innovation without failure. So that is the essence of innovation.
So Rachel Brown is asking, what is really a mentor? We heard they need to get a mentor, and I believe there are good ones and not so good ones. So maybe she's asking, how do you really find the right mentor for you? Yeah. So she said, yes, that's what it is. So Rachel, just personally, it was like bad dating. I had a series of like mentors who would just either, someone else, Dana, has the same question, who, were they would, they're old school, or they didn't understand the business model, or, they started talking about their own personal things all the time. And this is not through YBTT, but I've had mentors in the past. And I mean, it is really trying on who you feel most comfortable with. So don't feel like your first mentor and that's it. There's millions, billions of people here that you can choose from. So of course, YBTT can guide on that and match you with the right mentor. And any of you guys, like luckily for Jason, he had, I would say a great mentor right from the start. But is there any criteria that you guys use? If you have a mentor, is there anything that you do to really align that?
I see it. I have been fortunate to have some solid mentors, similar to Jason's, my father and so on as well. But how I see mentorship as, this might sound very trite, but it's true, as trying on different shoes. So, you have, like, ladies, you have stilettos, you have wedges, you have sandals, and you have slippers. Each one is for a particular purpose, and it serves a particular purpose. That doesn't mean I can't have all. So you can have 5 different mentors, but there's one that serves these stiletto heels that will tell me certain things, they're good for that, and they will guide me for that purpose. They may not be good in the flat shoes category, or in the sandals category. As I say, it's trite, but it works. So different mentors, you don't have to be stuck with 1 or 2 mentors. And throughout the journey, the entrepreneurial journey, you can change mentors. It's fine. It's perfectly fine. What you want to do is to be able to work with that particular person based on the skills that they can offer and the help that they can offer. Now, there are some mentors that are across the board, are holistic. can, and you're very fortunate if you have those people. But what
Yeah.
I have found over the years is that there are different people for different purposes.
Yeah.
So go after them, and you have to find the mentors. A lot of times mentors just don't come to you. You have to ask, can you be my mentor? Can I work with you? Can I have a chat with you? Can I call you to bounce things off of? You have to seek them out as well. And don't be afraid to do that.
I love that. So you hear that, guys. You can have more than one mentor. You don't have to only have one, right? So someone is asking how to become a member. Of course, there's tons of information on the YBTT website. These are some of the great conversations that we have. And someone is asking now, the last one is, this may sound like a weird question. So I'm proud of you, Ruth, for still asking. But what if you want to put yourself out there for your upcoming business, but transportation is a setback for you and you're afraid of traveling on your own? So, I mean, this is really specific and really personal. She said, someone is saying, I only found this session while going through Facebook. Is there an email listing? So, of course, Jonathan is going to share that with you guys, all the contact information in the chat. But I think exactly what you're saying there with the transportation, it's a setback for you and you're afraid of traveling on your own. So overcoming fears, these are really specific questions, but overcoming those fears, it's, maybe there's a friend or someone who can give you a ride, or is there an alternative form of transport that, might support that? But feel free to send us an email. We'll see how best we can answer, but we're at 12:59. We just want to wrap up really soon, Ruth. But there are a lot of, oh, she said, I got lost traveling for a pit competition. Oh gosh. Okay, so we need an app. Somebody needs to develop an app on how to travel, how to use public transportation.
TT Rideshare.
Yeah, TT Rideshare. There's a lot of
Rideshare,
yeah, that
yeah,
helps
and get yourself out there on social media. Use the internet.
Said, although she got lost, she did not give up. She still got through. So congrats on that. Alrighty is another one. Someone is saying, yeah. So that's a rideshare app. So thank you to everyone for being a part of this. I know the directors are happy now that they signed up, and I'm hoping the rest of the directors are gonna join us to have maybe more of these conversations, because I think it's really important to share our experience and maybe come out from behind the scenes all the time. So we hope everyone got a lot out of it. And I just want to end with a quote which I found was really great on what failing forward is about. So it's by William A. Ward, and he says, failure should be a teacher, not an undertaker. It is a delay, not defeat. It is a temporary detour, not a dead-end street. So whatever failures you're experiencing, use it to move forward. Realize that it's not permanent, it's not final. And I hope that, what we shared here today, inspired you on any level to get over those hurdles. And of course, YBTT is always there. You can contact us anytime by email, visit the website, visit our social media pages, and share with us what challenges you might be having, and we have a ton of programs that can support you. So happy Global Entrepreneurship Week. Thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Jason, Marcus. I know how busy everyone is. Everyone is clapping in the chat. I think they really enjoyed your honesty, and thank you, and we look forward to more sessions like these, and have a great weekend, everybody.
And thanks to you, Rachel. Thanks for doing this as well.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Everyone, take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.